Thank you for having me here today. I'm Jingbo Hou, a fourth-year PhD candidate from WP Carey Business School at ASU. Today, I'm going to talk about a paper that is a joint work with my advisor, Dr. Peyuchan, and me. Can bot improve equality? Bot-generated content mitigates the co-star issue. As we all know, repetition signals play an important role in online platform due to the information asymmetry. Before we start the talk, let's think about a question. How often do you rely on online reviews about products or sellers when making a purchase decision? Based on a recent survey, 87% of consumers read online reviews before purchasing. This over-reliance on online rating may lead to the massive effect: the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Most relevant to our study, the repetition systems may cause a cold start problem. John Houghton describes the cold start problem in the online labor market as workers cannot get hired unless they have feedback, and they cannot get feedback unless they have been hired, which means that new products or new sellers who lack reputation signals, they cannot be valued, and therefore they cannot gain the reputation signals. Let's have a deeper look at the cold start problem. As we discussed, reputation signals and information signals help to reduce the uncertainty faced by consumers. As the nature of the cold start problem is a multi-fold information asymmetry. For example, when we want to buy new products, we face a high product quantity uncertainty and product fit uncertainty because there's no review for us to refer to. But similarly, when we want to buy a product from a new seller, we face a very high seller quantity uncertainty. Online platforms nowadays try to solve this cold start problem by incentivizing consumers to give reviews. For example, early review program of Amazon encourages consumers who have already purchased a product to share their authentic experience about the product by providing a small reward like $3 gift card. While incentivizing consumers to post review may address cold start issue, it is worth noting that incentivizing consumers to post product-related content is pretty costly for online sellers, especially for small sellers. This non-negligible cost means that some new sellers who cannot pay for these services still suffer from the cold start issue. And in fact, this problem can be even worsened for the financially disadvantaged sellers. Given the advancement of the automation, machines now can generate information signals in a more efficient way for certain products in a faster, cheaper, and probably more objective ways. In this case, we expect bot-generated contents mitigates the cold start issue related to new products by reducing both the product quantity uncertainty and the product fit uncertainty, since the bot-generated content can disclose more information about the product. After looking at how bot-generated content influence the cold start issue related to new products, we are more interested in examining whether the bot-generated content mitigates the cold start problem related to new sellers. On the one hand, signaling theory suggests that the role of the seller's reputation signal is less critical when there is lower product uncertainty. Therefore, the bot-generated content can supplement the reputation signals by reducing the information's asymmetry. And thus, we expect that new sellers benefit more from the bot-generated content. However, on the other hand, the congruency effect suggests that individuals like congruent information, and information congruency increases the information diagnosticity. Therefore, there might be complementary effect between the product's information signals generated by bots and sellers' reputation signals. And thus, we expect that established sellers benefit more from the bot-generated content. To summarize our research question, we formally propose that our research question as, can bot-generated contents effectively address the cold start problem related to new products and related to providers who lack the reputation signals. We use Kaggle dataset community as our research context. Kaggle is an online data science community. Kagglers are free to share quality data set and explore the data set shared by others. They can give votes for data sets they like. Kaggle introduced a bot which would help to generate the dataset specific exploratory data analysis, that is called EDA, in August 2018. This is the icon of the bot. It's very cute. And after the launch of this design, that's the design of the bot, providers of the shared data sets, they have to employ the bot to generate EDAs for their data set in the initial first a few months. That is the initial stage. Later, they have the choice to decide whether to employ the bot to generate the EDA for their data sets or not. Let's have a closer look at the implementation stages of this function. In the first stage, in the first couple of months, it is mandatory for individual dataset owners to adopt a bot to generate EDAs. Only organization owners have the choice of not using the bot. In the second stage, this is the opt-out stage. The default option is using bots, but data owner can choose not to adopt the bots to generate EDAs. The third stage is opt-in stage. The default option is not to use a bot, and the data owners can choose to adopt the bot to generate EDAs. For the data set created prior to the introduction of the bots, the data owners have the choice to adopt the bot to generate EDAs for their previously shared data sets after the introduction of the bot function. One challenge in our study here to answer our research questions is that the self-selection issue. Specifically, data owners can freely adopt the bot to generate EDAs based on their own needs. To address this self-selection concern, we use two identification strategies, including matching and instrumental variable approaches. Regarding the matching approach, we match a dataset shared with and without bots based on their the dataset size, the usability of the dataset, and the topic of the dataset. And also, we match based on some data owner characteristics like the follower number, the shared dataset volume, and the votes received by the data owner. Here, the usability score is calculated by Kaggle based on the usability level of the dataset, considering whether the dataset has an appropriate title, description, format, and so on. Regarding the IV approach, we use a ratio of dataset shared with bot-generated EDAs in the past week as an IV, which captures the data owner's likelihood of adopting the functionality. Dataset topic is derived from a BERT topic modeling method based on the title and description of the dataset. We provide 4 examples for the general topic of the generated topics. To answer our research questions and conduct our research design, we compile a rich dataset. The main variable of interest is a bot dummy variable, indicating whether the dataset is shared with a bot-generated EDAs. As we discussed, we use a ratio of the dataset shared with bot-generated EDAs in the past 7 days as instrumental variables. Regarding the dependent variables, we measure consumption during the first stage by using the vote received by the dataset in the first month. We measure the dataset diffusion rate based on the monthly vote volume received by the dataset using the base model. There are 2 diffusion rates calculated by the BUS model, including the diffusion rate for innovators and imitators. Innovators are those whose adoption decision do not depend on others. However, imitators are those whose adoption decision depends on the volume of existing adopters. And we classify the diffusion rate for both innovators and imitators into 2 groups. the high group and the low group. To measure the data owner's reputation signals, they use both the organization identifier and data owner's historical votes received by their previous data sets. The rationale of using organizational indicator as a reputation signal is that organizational data set owners like Kaggle, WHO, and New York City, they are all organizational data owners, are more likely to disclose the true characteristics of the data set and provide updates of their data set frequently in the future. The rationale of using the vote of the voters, vote volumes received by the dataset owner as a reputation signal is that data owners who receive more votes are more likely to be trusted by dataset users. We first look at the impact of bot-generated content on the timing of the first adoption received by the dataset using the survival model. Specifically, a failure event is defined as a receipt of the first vote in the given month. We conduct our analysis using the mesh sample. Our results show that datasets shared with machine-generated contents, the EDAs, are 17% more likely to gather false votes. More importantly, one standard deviation increase in the votes received by the dataset owner weakens the main effect by 25%. And machine-generated EDAs do not help organizational data owners, which means that the main effect is positive, but the moderation effect by the data owner's reputation signal is negative. We then examine the impact of bot-generated content on the dataset consumption during the initial stage. We report both the OLS and two-stage least square results. Consistently, our results show that machine-generated content increase the number of votes received by the dataset in the first months, and the dataset owner's reputation signals negatively moderate these effects. Specifically, machine-generated content increase the number of votes received by the dataset in the first month by 20% based on the OLS results. And one standard deviation increase in the vote received by the data owner weakens the main effect by 30%. Also, organizational dataset providers can now benefit from the machine-generated content. We finally examine the impact of bot-generated content on the data diffusion rates, which is measured by the base model. Specifically, we have two diffusion rates for the innovator and for the imitator respectively. And we classify the diffusion rate into low and high group. And our results indicate that machine-generated content increase the chance of a dataset becoming top popular dataset among innovators by 1.2 percentage points. More importantly, for innovators, one standard deviation increase in the vote received by the data owners weakens the main effect by 60%. And our instrumental variable approach gives us similar results. To summarize, we found that bot-generated content shortens the time a dataset needs to get the first adoption, and also increase adoption number in the initial stage, also increases the dataset diffusion rate in the life cycle. This positive effect is stronger for dataset owners who lack the reputation signals. The takeaway is that bot can be used to mitigate the product-related co-star issue, and also can be used to mitigate the provider-related co-star issue. So therefore, we conclude that bot can be used to improve the equality in the online communities. All feedback, comments, suggestions are highly welcome. Please contact us based on the email. Thank you.